I joined the Make team about 6 months ago now as their design director. So my role there is just to bring my expertise in design and design practice to support the team and help them keep pushing boundaries moving forward. At Make, like a lot of design agencies that are really small and lean, we're very flat organization. We, as leadership, as being part of the leadership team internally, it doesn't actually mean all that much as far as hierarchy is concerned. But obviously some decisions need to be made around the business. But everyone has input in that. And at Make, that's something we really value. We are amazed every single day by the team that we have and how brilliant they are. And they, our job, my job, is just to present the conditions and help them with some of the direction. But they're the ones that flourish, and they're the ones that are leading the work and that are pursuing things and that are trying to be as creative as possible and really relish in the stuff that they're really good at. And our job is just to help facilitate that. So in some instances, I really see leadership is fit for purpose in trying to do design well. The environment's set up and you have really, really, really strong, good leadership, someone who has that really compelling vision, who embraces change and understands how difficult it is, even if it makes them look bad. And that's a really key point as well. The perception versus the reality is a really important thing about leadership. It's not something leadership from the outside seems to look really glamorous and something that people aspire towards, or that you should be aspiring towards. It's the carrot that you climb in the ranks, and in actual fact, it's terrifying and it's lonely and it's not glamorous at all. And it's really easy to criticize people on the outside by the decisions they make when they're just trying to do their best. Sometimes leaders who prefer managerial styles are more concerned with the appearance of their decisions and the appearance of the work that they do, rather than actually making the tough choices, even if it tarnishes their reputation, even if it puts them out of a job. You start to see more of that happening now. And there's a lot of criticism that goes around it, but it's really inspiring to see people just putting themselves out there in that way. And I think it's becoming more and more respected. You don't have to be a designer to do design. The perception of how you look at the world and how you approach problems is more important than the methodology that you use or the language that you use or the tools that you use. Because, if you have, as you mentioned in your blog, growth mindset, and if you're curious about things and have the courage to challenge the status quo and be open to collaboration with other people, then you can do anything. With other companies in other design firms that I know of, mindset is absolutely key. And with mindset comes culture fit. I think part of it too is the fact that as design agencies and people who work in design teams wanting to create the new way of working and model it and help others, make those changes for themselves if that's what's required. Embracing mindset to create really great culture is something that we have to practice if that is something that we are trying to help others with, because culture is strategy. Rewarding those right behaviors, the behaviors that you want to foster and to create the conditions for the team to thrive, is really important as leaders, and really hard sometimes when it comes to having to switch contexts and having to play a different role in a different situation. It can be really, really draining, but absolutely important. Someone like me, I'm a lot more ad hoc. I try and follow a regimen of, doing some reflective practice and setting intentions for the day. But I switch really quickly and things change, and I become bored with things really quickly. I think, so I don't necessarily have a strong regiment, but I think that one of the most important things is to keep hungry. So go attending conferences, reading books, reading articles, speaking to people, talking, meeting people. That's where I get my inspiration from. The way that I reflect as a person is through talking, not necessarily through drawing or keeping, journals that I refer back to. For me at the moment, uh, in the short term, I am gaining a lot of inspiration just from my colleagues, and being so inspired by them because they are helping me in my stretch zone, not just in my comfort zone anymore. For the long term, my personal practice does align with very closely to where the company is going. And we are going to be looking at, design is always trying to find the next thing. What's the next practice? Where are things going? It is my belief that the wave of the trend of human-centered design is at its peak, and will decline quite rapidly. And it's not to say that the elements of human-centered design are going to go away. I think it's going to be embedded into practice, much like user experience has. What's going to become more important is the ethics behind the decisions that people have to make when it comes to how new technology is integrated into what we do, and into automation and artificial intelligence and that kind of thing. How the role of the designer is going to be one that's about how do we actually make ethical decisions around these things that are happening, and how do we help the 13-year-old kid who's creating the next artificial intelligence in his garage understand about standards. I think design's biggest Achilles heel is the fact that it's a discipline and a practice that no one really understands because it's so intangible and so unquantifiable in value. Designers have a tendency to have had to boost themselves up and try and demonstrate value, and that comes off as being really egotistical sometimes and really arrogant, and obnoxious to people on the outside. In the world of human-centered design and strategic design and service design, experience design, or whatever it is you want to call it, it's all about collaboration and working with people who have different language, who have real constraints, and every context is so different, that I observe designers trying to still hold on to the value that they're trying to explain in their own language, rather than adapting and translating what they're trying to do in the context of others. And that's really about being human-centered. What I've observed as well is a lot of human-centered designers and consultants that come in and have projects that have constraints and timeframes, and really battle to understand the client's context, and their work doesn't land. The work doesn't fall right, and one of the biggest problems with that is that the designers just haven't heard. They weren't listening to the client. When the client was saying, this thing's not going to work, no one understands what you're saying, these guys are really tied up with this thing, it doesn't fit in with our strategy, or how are you actually going to manage the situation? And designers have been like, but this is how it's going to be, and this is what a journey map looks like. I think one of the biggest pieces of wisdom I hope to offer to any designer who's aspiring to practice and become a leader in the field is about letting go of your own definitions of things and being adaptive to others and using their language and really listening to what's really going on for the people that you're creating and designing for.